So, what are externalities? Put simply, an externality refers to the cost incurred or the benefit received by a third party. However, the third party does not have control over the generation of these costs or benefits. The externality can be positive or negative and may arise from either the production or consumption of goods. It can be either private or social, which means that it can either be on an individual level or affect the entire society or market. An example of the negative externality could be the pollution that is emitted by a factory, which in turn disturbs the surrounding environment and affects the health of residents who may live nearby. On the other hand, an example of a positive externality could be a neighbor performing aesthetic landscaping work on their front yard, which makes the entire street look more inviting and increases their own property value, but also the property value of home around theirs. Externalities often happen when the production or consumption of the own price equilibrium of a product or service does not reflect the actual cost or benefits of the product or service of the whole society as a whole. Therefore, the supply and demand curves in the market do not accurately depict the socially optimal equilibrium, but rather the market equilibrium without taking externalities into account. How do we understand this visually? Consider the following question: what is the optimal level of pollution? Most people would automatically give the answer that zero pollution would be optimal. However, the optimal level of pollution is not zero. Instead, the optimal level is obtained by following our economic decision rule of equating the marginal benefit to the marginal cost. The definitions of the terms are given below. And however, due to the negative impact that production has on society, the marginal cost, social cost of production would require there to be less output produced than if there was no externality. That is why we see the marginal social cost curve is farther to the left than the private social cost by the amount of the externality, which creates a socially optimal equilibrium, which is strictly less than the market equilibrium, as the market equilibrium does not take into account any externalities. When a positive externality is present, the market produces less than the socially optimal quantity of the good or service, since there is a benefit to society that is not captured by the individual. Higher education, for example, not only benefits the individual but also the society as a whole, since well-educated individuals are often creating new products and services and oftentimes more innovative and efficient in their field. However, a student will only consider the marginal private benefit and the marginal private cost when determining the quantity of education that he or she would obtain, not the additional benefit to society that they create with their decision. An example of a positive externality could be a decision to stop smoking causes benefit to other people in society who no longer suffers passive smoking, and that is how we can see an recent article that was posted that how tobacco industry has an environmental impact. An example of negative externality could be the consuming alcohol, which leads to an increase in drunkenness and health issues. It's ultimately a fine balancing act. If the costs are high when it comes to negative externalities, such as many people getting sick due to pollution, governments step in through measures such as taxing those who pollute it. If, however, the costs are not that high, for example, a business making too much noise, which bugs a few neighbors, the state decides to stay out of it. The same way, governments encourage positive externalities using tools such as subsidies, but once again, balance is the operative word.